ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 2 of the series. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. It's been less than a month, and Izuku's reputation has skyrocketed through the UA hallways, especially among the support course students. The rumored kid who demolished the zero-pointer using his invention during the entrance exam and transferred into the support department to pursue a career in support instead. Some people would assume that by taking a hero exam first, the kid would grow an ego complex or look down on the support course students. But it turns out he's more down-to-earth than everyone realizes. Humble, kind, ready to help those in need. In just a few days, he's gaining a reputation as the support course ace for the first year. For Izuku, this kind of reaction is to be expected. He has shown his great innovation skills in the support course and quickly gained a reputation for it. And the best part of it, none of them cared about his quirkless status one bit. Of course, he took the opportunity to get to know his class better and interact with them. But there are still some people who refuse to acknowledge him, but they didn't seem hostile towards him and just left him alone. The class flew by as he just finished with the literature class. There are many classes at UA, such as literature, math, English, and history, but the one that caught his attention was engineering class, where he could freely innovate and do things freely. It was lunch hour, and finally, after the bell rang, he got up after countless hours of sitting at his desk and headed to the development studio to work on his project. He headed to the studio, took a seat at his table, and started working on a new design for some of the students who begged for him to help them. Power Loader, who heard many begging from the other students of Izuku talent, decided to give him access to help with the development part. But with the incident of Bakugu, he seems to be under the microscopic watch of Power Loader and Principal Nizu in the studio, and all of his designs have to undergo careful inspection. Izuku won't mind at all and happily comply with their demand. Sitting at his desk, Izuku starts helping with Hatsum on their project. The two of them had grown close and become friends after hanging out a couple of times, but Izuku still had trouble with her being close to his space. Working on his design, someone came through the door, and Izuku didn't pay any attention as he was busy with his soldering iron. Midoriya, someone came to see you. But Izuku is so busy with his work that he doesn't hear it. His headset muffled the sound of his classmate calling him. Midoriya, Midoriya, Midoriya. Finally, after his classmate calls his name, he turns off the solder, takes off his headset, and looks away from his table. What is it? Someone came to talk to you. He looked up to his back and saw someone indeed had been coming to see him. It was a first-year student, he assumed from how they were in the same age. With her ginger hair color-tied in a single ponytail and her teal eyes, it brings her beauty up close to him. Hey, sorry to bother you, but I'm having some trouble, and I was hoping I could talk about adding a support item to my costume. Kindo replied. What? Izuku muttered, still mesmerized by her look. But somehow, he seems to know her from before. My support items, she repeated her words once more. Oh sure, what can I do? Izuku offers her a seat next to him while clearing the table. She moved over to his table and went on to explain, you see, I have some trouble with my quirk during training, and I was hoping I could get something to cover for it. All right, can I get to know your name first? My name? For the database. Izuku corrected himself. I need to input your name to check for your quirk so I can get a better understanding. Oh sure, it's Suka Kindo. She answered, and Izuku began to type her name over to the school network. All right, a hero student in Class B. Your quirk is called Big Fist, I assume by the name alone, that it allows you to enlarge one or both of your hands to enormous sizes. Yes, you're right. It's a pretty cool quirk if you asked me, Izuku said. And what seems to bothering you? Izuku seems to have an idea of it, but he gave her a chance to explain her problem. Well, I just noticed that my quirk allows me to enlarge my hands, but the problem is I lack the defense when I throw a punch. When I throw a punch, my hands sometimes get hurt from the rubble that comes from the object that I threw my punch with. So you need something to cover your hands to add a protective layer, correct? Yes, so I was wondering if you could help with it. He began to rack his brain for a moment before he came up with an idea. Yeah, I could work with it, but I'm going to need some time with it. You have any plans with it? Not fully, but I'm able to get the general idea. I was thinking of adding a protective glove for your hands. Sounds simple, but I'm going to add some extra material to it. So it is shaped in a bracelet and able to transform by wrapping your hand with it, and able to withstand your punch whether you expand your hand or not. Kindo looked for a while, knowing that it was just what she needed. That's pretty clever. No, it's perfect. Did you just come up with it now? Pretty much, he answered truthfully. Wow. And you made all of this yourself? Kindo looked around at his table filled with many ideas and prototypes. Most of it. I had some help with the wiring and everything, but most of it was my design and the whole base of it. She took a look around, admiring his work that was on display, and that's when her eyes diverted to one of his inventions that was on the table. It was a mechanical gauntlet with a circular round light on the palm, something that she recognized. Is this yours? She grabbed the gauntlet in her hand and looked at the item, in great condition. Yeah, but I haven't used it for a while, Izuku replied. Wait, you're the guy from the heroic entrance exam? The one who flies around blasting robots? Yeah, that's me. How did you? That's when Izuku starts to remember who she was. It was the girl that he saved during the entrance exam. The girl almost got squished by the zero-pointer, but Izuku is able to destroy the robot before it could harm her. You're that kid from the entrance exam. Kindo muttered, I've been looking around for you. Oh, sorry. I kind of bailed on you back then. He began to remember how he bailed on her after rescuing her that time because of her sister. No, it's just, I kept thinking about it, how I almost got crushed. If it weren't for you, I don't know what's happened. I also at fault too, you know. I kind of bailed and did not check on your condition in case you got hurt. Yeah, so how about we start fresh? She smiled over at him. Hi, my name is Itsuka Kendo. Izuku stared at her for a moment before showing a warm smile as well. My name is Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you. Soon both of them began to drift away from their talk about support items and started to talk about other stuff. Where they come from, their hobby, their favorite food, and what they do after school, and start talking about unimportant stuff, but both of them enjoy each other's company before the bell begins to ring. Oh, didn't realize that lunch is already over. Yeah, time flies so fast. Izuku looked at the clock. Well, I better head back to the class. Kindo gets up from her seat. Vlad King-sensei is going to be mad if we're going to be late. You having a test exam? Izuku went on and asked. No, we're headed for a simulation training exercise. Kindo replied, we're going to do it first on ground beta, and after that, we're headed to USJ. Oh, good luck then, Izuku said. Thanks. I'll leave the writing of my input for you, just in case you need it. She handed the paper to him. Thanks again, Midoriya. Kindo walks away as Izuku waves her goodbye, and he opens the paper to see what she wrote. For a moment, he looks startled. Then he gets out his phone and makes a call. Kindo is on her way out to her class when her phone rings. She didn't recognize the number. Hello? She answered. Too soon? Izuku asked over the phone. Kindo looks around, and she smiles back behind the wall where he is right now, not being able to see that he also has a smile on him. Izuku is still working on the new design for many students, piling right in front of him, with many requests coming from hero students from first to second years. He knows that popularity comes with perks and responsibilities at hand, but luckily, his classmates are more than happy to help and take his load off from his back. He's working on a new invention of his right now, an upgraded version of his repulsor blaster that he used during the entrance exam. He's trying to double the power rotation on it, making it more powerful and effective now that he's having spare time. He's working on his design right now when suddenly there's a ruckus happening outside the studio. His initial thought was that Hatsum was messing with one of her inventions and having her usual explosion, but when he turned his head around, the deadlock girl also turned her head looking confused and not her fault. So he headed to the door and opened it to see many students come running in the hallway like in some sort of stampede where they were participating in a bull racing competition in Pamplona. The hell is going on? Izuku asked one of the students who was running and grabbed his shirt. You haven't heard? The USJ said that it was under attack by a group of villains, and they said that a hero student got injured. The student said in a hurry before he continued to run. Flashback start. It was Tuesday, and Class 1A was already sitting in a bus while heading to USJ. They chatted, gossiped, and played a little game while waiting to get there. The bus is filled with many talking, much to Aizawa's displeasure as he was trying to get some sleep. Katsuki was still in the infirmary after his fiasco during the battle training exercise, so he won't be joining today, and, as a precaution, Katsumi's gauntlet is being inspected by Power Loader to see if it's up to standard since they were worried that it might have the same effect just like her brother. After 20 minutes, they finally arrived at a large dome in front of them with a large staircase leading to a likewise large door with the letter USJ on the front of the dome. The class looked at the building in awe while Aizawa-sensei told him to stop wasting time and move on. When the doors opened, the group was met with the space hero, 13. The students began to gather around as she began to explain the true purpose of this training and why rescue training is very important. She also explains the importance of using your quirks with caution, which the class internally agreed on, as they could cause harm to others. All right, now let's begin with what we'll be doing, Aizawa began to explain, but stopped talking as the lights began to flicker and shut down completely. And suddenly Kirishima spoke to him. Whoa, you have fake villains as well. That's so cool, Kirishima commented while showing his toothy teeth. Aizawa looked in the direction Kirishima pointed, and suddenly a purple mist appeared in the middle. Several people began to step out, and by the looks of it, they weren't friendly, especially the handman villain that gave him an ominous aura. No, those are real villains, Aizawa shouted as the rest of the students panicked. 13, protect the student, he shouted, before going downstairs to face the villains. Kids, this way. Hurry, 13 shouted as she pointed to the entrance, telling them to escape. The rest of the class makes a getaway and is about to reach the door when suddenly the mist villain appears in front of them, blocking the gate. Greetings, we are the League of Villains. I apologize for intruding unannounced, but we have invited ourselves to kill the symbol of peace, All Might himself. The mist villain explained in a good manner speech. He should be here, right? So where is he? Or is there a change of schedule perhaps? The mist villain said, glancing around and noticing that All Might was missing. All of a sudden, Katsumi, Kirishima, and Izumi all went charging at the villain. Katsumi aimed an explosion at his face, while Kirishima readied to punch him on the right side, and Izumi charged her quirk to hit him on his left side. But all three of their attacks missed and did not hit the villain at all. Impressive for being a student. As expected from this generation's golden eggs. The mist villain comments on their futile attempt. Everyone, get back, Black Hole, 13 shouted as a cap on her finger popped off and sucked everything. Black Hole, certainly a powerful quirk and dangerous. Too bad that you don't have enough battle experience, since you were a rescue hero after all, he said, as a portal comes behind her. Her quirk backfired as her back was ripped open and she fell unconscious. 13 Uraraka screamed while looking at the space hero lying unconscious. Now that the biggest problem has been taken care of, let's begin our little show, shall we? He said, as several vortexes appeared and sucked nearly everyone into the vortex except a couple of students, like Uraraka, Ida, Ashido, Shoji, Sato, and others. Everyone is screaming in panic as the mist swallows the students and separates them. Soon, everyone went into the vortex, and we could see Izumi fall onto the ground as she groaned in pain until someone weighed her back. Izumi, is that you? Azui said, while looking at her fellow green-haired friend. Sue, is that you? Oh, thank God. Izumi groans as she tries to stand up. Where are we anyway? Izumi wonders as she stands on a boat. It looks like a flood zone, Azui explained as she looked at the surroundings. Suddenly, a villain is trying to get on the boat, but Izumi beats him to it by punching him and fell into the water. Then suddenly someone is screaming in fear on the boat. Izumi, Azui? Someone spoke their name. Mineta? Is it you? Izumi asked. Yeah, it's me. What happened here? The purple midget spoke. It seems like they teleported us here. Guess they do it at random, not specific. Otherwise, they wouldn't send Sue here knowing she would have an advantage. Izumi explained. True, so what should we do? Azui asked while looking at the villain that was still on the water. Right now, Izumi began to think about how to escape from this predicament. There are multiple villains surrounding them, and there are over 20 of them there. But there were only 3 people there. As her brain began to come up with a solution, she turned to both of them. I have an idea. Mineta, throw your balls as much as you can towards the waters. Sue, after I give the signal, grab Mineta with your tongue and get away from here as fast as you can. I'm going to create a shockwave and aim it in the middle of the water. That should cause a spiral to form. Izumi explained her idea. That might have worked, Izumi. I'm impressed you could come up with that plan. Azui complimented her friend. All right, let's do this, Mineta screamed as he threw his balls at the ball. Then all of a sudden, Izumi jumped off the boat, aimed her finger at the water, and flicked her finger to create a vortex in the water. Now, Izumi yelled and Azui grabbed Mineta and made their getaway as far away as they could. As soon as they landed safely, the purple midget spoke first. Holy cow, it worked. You're amazing, Izumi. Mineta complimented her. Thanks, guys, come on. We should check the entrance and see if we could meet up with others, Izumi said while leading the group towards the entrance door. Finally, they reached the center where they were hiding. They just saw their homeroom teacher get pinned down by a large bird creature and a hand villain standing beside him. The creature is almost as big as All Might in terms of size. It manages to beat Aizawa-sensei to a pulp. We have to help him, Izumi said as she was getting ready to fight the villain. Hold on, we can't just run in there and fight the villain. We're going to lose badly, Mineta argued while almost crying. Izumi, Mineta is right. We need to approach this carefully. We can't just rush in there with no plan, Azui explained to her fellow green-haired friend. As much as she hated to admit it, she was right. They were outnumbered and outmatched against those villains. But they can't just sit here while their sensei is in danger. They have no idea what to do, their friends are scattered around, their teacher is lying on the ground, and the villains have taken over the USJ. When things couldn't go from bad to worse, the mist guy appeared at the handman's side and came to him. Shigaraki, I managed to scatter the rest of the students, but unfortunately, one person managed to escape. It seems that he was quite fast for me, the mist villain said. Hirojiri, if you weren't my escape plan, I'll kill you right now. Shigaraki started throwing tantrums while scratching his neck. So what now, Shigaraki? It seems that All Might isn't coming here as scheduled. Hirojiri asked him while wondering what we should do. And after all the trouble, I had to bring this Nomu for him. Shigaraki was wondering as well. Well, with the pro heroes coming here soon, and All Might is not coming, I guess there's no other choice. Let's retreat, Shigaraki said while complaining a bit. In their hiding spot, they were surprised a little when the villain said that they should retreat. Wait, they're retreating. We're safe, Mineta cried while looking at Izumi and Azui. But Izumi wasn't convinced with this at all. Being the daughter of All Might, she learned a couple of tricks that most villains wouldn't just surrender after doing a raid like this. There has to be more to it. Well, it seems the symbol of peace wasn't coming today, but let's damage his pride and image a little, shall we? Shigaraki said as he made a mad dash towards Izumi and placed a hand on her head. Izumi feels dread as she closes her eyes while closing her eyes and grits her teeth while waiting for her inevitable doom. But she didn't feel anything as she slowly opened her eyes and saw that his hand was still touching her face. Huh, you really are cool, Eraserhead. Shigaraki looked at the underground hero himself as he used his quirk on Shigaraki, as he just erased his quirk. Aizawa-sensei lifted his head and used his quirk just in time to cancel Shigaraki's quirk, but only for a moment as the Nomu slammed Aizawa's head into the ground. Get away from me, smash, Izumi said as he used 10% of OFA to punch Shigaraki in the face, hoping to knock him out cold. But suddenly Nomu is moving towards Shigaraki and blocked her punch. What she didn't account for was her punch was much weaker than Nomu's dense body, as she screamed in pain while holding on her hands that made contact with Nomu's exterior body. Izumi groaned, feeling like she just broke her hand. Are you a fan of All Might, kid? You sound and act just like him. Shigaraki smirked as he said that to her, while Izumi was shaking and in pain. Nice try, kid, but not good enough, Shigaraki said while smiling and trying to grab Izumi for a second time, only for Aizawa to use his scarf to hold his hand. Get away from here. Now, Aizawa said while trying to hold him. And no, we won't be abandoning you, Izumi screamed at her teacher as she pleaded to him to get away and make a run for it. Well then, say goodbye, kid, he said as he grabbed Aizawa's scarf and yanked it off him. Then he tried to grab hold of Izumi's face, trying to use his quirk to decay her. When suddenly, a loud bang came from the door and everyone stopped what they were doing. Izumi, who, and Mineta were looking at the entrance on who was entering the door, while Shigaraki is smiling excitedly as he knows who is the mysterious person that just entered the room. He came, Shigaraki said under his breath while trying to hold his excitement. Then all of a sudden someone just came from the smoke. It was the symbol of peace. He entered the room as he was looking at the students and his co-worker on the ground. Rage filled his mind at the sight of this, while his daughter was being held by the villain. Right now, there's only one thing that he could say to calm their mind. It's fine now. Why? Because I am here. All Might grit his teeth, and for the first time, he wasn't smiling. All Might is standing in front of the door, and one thing that the villain immediately notices is that he isn't smiling at all. He was pissed by how the villain was able to enter the USJ and attack the students and his co-worker. The villain that stands below could feel the rage that they felt as they stared at the #1 hero in front of them. His eyes trailed to the plaza, and he could see Aizawa was barely able to stand as he tried to hold the villain with his scarf. He saw some of the students that stood near Aizawa. Mineta and Tiu were shaking with the villains surrounding them, and his daughter, Izumi, was being held by the hand villain. All Might bent his knee and rushed forward. Suddenly, the villain was knocked out, and All Might managed to pick up Mineta, Izumi, and Aizawa to safety. He put them down carefully, especially Aizawa, who was seriously injured. "Are you kids all right?" he asked while worrying about his student safety. "We're fine, sir," Azui says while coughing a little. "Good, now stand back, I will face them," All Might said. "Wait, be careful, Dad. That thing is strong." Izumi warns her father. "Have no fear, young Izumi, for I am here." All Might said his signature catchphrase. He rushed over to the bird creature. "Carolina. Smash!" He shouted the name of his signature moves, swinging his arms in a downward X with immense force as they met with the bird creature's body. "Ha, that won't work, All Might. Noma here has shock absorption," Shigaraki said while chuckling a bit. All Might keeps punching the creature one more time, then again, and again, but no matter what, his punch does not affect the creature. No matter where he hits the creature, it has no effect. "Nomu, let's show the symbol of peace your power, shall we?" Shigaraki muttered, and suddenly the symbol of peace got punched and landed a couple of meters from where he stood before. All Might was shocked. This is the first time anyone has ever punched him this hard. Not to mention, his full power punches aren't having any effect at all. "I can't let this creature get past me, no matter what," he thought. Then he uses his signature move again, the one that always wins him in his battle against many villains. "Detroit. Smash!" He shouted his signature move as his fist met with the body of the creature, only to have no effect at all. "Have you gone deaf? Noma has a shock absorption, or maybe you were always this stupid, All Might," Shigaraki said while mocking the symbol of peace himself. All Might then tried to circle the creature before grabbing Nomu by the waist and slamming him to the ground in a suplex motion. Unfortunately, Noma's upper body passed through the vortex that appeared. Then Noma grabbed All Might where his weak points are, causing him to cry in pain. All Might thought once he tried to let go of the Nomu. "What the? Does this creature know about my weak point?" All Might said internally. "Impressive, as expected from the symbol of peace himself," Kurogiri said while applauding the hero himself. "However, Nomu was designed to deal with your power 100%. And even if you did manage to win, there are still many villains in the area, including both of us, and we're not to be taken lightly. Now, all we have to do is order the Nomu to pull your body through before I close it once your body is halfway." Kurogiri explained his current predicament. All Might's eyes are widened as he just falls into the villain's trap. He needs to get himself free before he gets his body cut up in half. Just when his head was about to touch the portal, he could hear the sound of an explosion in ice. "Die!" Katsumi yelled out loud. A loud voice echoed as the Nomu was frozen up to his upper torso, and a sound of the explosion blasted through the mist villain as he was being pinned down to the ground by Katsumi and Kirishima. "Thank goodness we managed to get here in time." "All Might," Shoto said while looking at All Might. We can beat him together. These villains will pay for wrecking this place. Die. Katsumi rushes to the Nomu and fires off an explosion to his face, only for All Might, who saw this, immediately grab the young girl and rush back to the group and make a mad dash to get them to safety. Unfortunately, this forces All Might to free Kirojiri, as much to his dismay. But suddenly, the Nomu broke free from the ice, and his torn-off body that was being encased by ice was reformed back. What the? I thought you said his quirk was shock absorption. All Might shouted in disbelief. Ha ha, I never said that was his only quirk. Noma here has 3 quirks: super strength, shock absorption, and super regeneration. It's the perfect killing machine to face you at your 100% All Might. It's time to end this, shall we? Nomu, kill All Might, Shigaraki said while giving the order to Nomu, which it replies by roaring the symbol of peace. 2 of them keep trading blows, but neither is building from the fight. However, All Might is losing the fight because none of his punches has any significant effect on Nomu. The students and Shigaraki could tell that All Might was losing, that he was prolonging the inevitable. I will not fall, 'cause I still have people that are waiting for me. All Might yells. I'm not going to give up. All Might roared as he punched Nomu even harder than before. You said that he has shock absorption, not nullification. That means there's a limit on how much he can take, All Might said, while the Nomu slightly faltered. All Might punch is becoming faster and stronger than before. Built to fight me at 100% of my powers? Then I just have to go beyond that, he shouted as he kept punching Nomu. Nomu began to lose, as it couldn't keep up with the punches that came to his body. He began to falter under the symbol of peace punches. The punches weren't stopping at all, as he kept getting pummeled every second until Nomu couldn't keep up with it. Hey villain, surely you have heard this word before. Go beyond. Plus ultra, All Might shouted as he uppercuts the Nomu and sends it flying to the sky. Shigaraki and Kirojiri watch in horror as Nomu just gets defeated and gets sent flying. The Nomu that they had brought to kill All Might just get defeated like that. Immediately Shigaraki began to throw a tantrum like a child. No. And Nomu just got defeated? It's not possible. You must have cheated somehow. No, could it be that Sensei was lying? All Might hasn't gotten weaker at all. He began to mutter under his breath. Sensei, could it be? All Might thought. Shigaraki, it seems that we must retreat for now. Without the Nomu, we lack the battle power to go against All Might himself, and the pro-heroes were about to arrive. Kirojiri calmly explained to Shigaraki. Find Kirojiri, teleport US back. Shigaraki ordered Kirojiri to open up a portal for them. Kirojiri opened up a portal that began to slowly swallow them both, while All Might and the rest of the students just watched as the villain departed. The students of Class 1 were currently walking back to their classroom after the other pro-heroes from the UA staff had shown up. They were all a bit shaken up, but were just happy no one from the class had died during the attack. Right now, most of the students and everyone are being interviewed by a detective from the police named Tsukachi Naomesa as they were helping explain what happened to them. Over in Recovery Girl's office, Tashinori was lying in bed, not being able to move after the injuries he had been dealt during the battle. Inko was sitting beside him, worried for her husband after being called and that he was hurt. While Recovery Girl was healing him, Izumi was in a different room. She had also suffered an injury from her fight with Inomu just now. She was lying on her bed, with Katsuki sleeping next to her in a different bed. Her hand, like her neighbor's, was also covered in a cast. Right now, she was being visited by the rest of the class over what happened as they were being finished with the interview. She had a stream of visitors, all intent on cheering her up. The rest of her class came to check up on her. They were trying to cheer her up, telling her that she did good with the villain and didn't show any fear when being confronted by it. Is your hand going to be okay? Katsumi asked, looking at the cast on her hand. It should be. Recover Girl told me that it's going to heal a lot faster. She waved her cast arm. Man, can't believe that first day of our training exercise and villain came into our school. Ciro groaned, looking at the... I know. It's been the talk of the day. They even put on the news just now. Luckily, We have time to get some rest since Principal Nizu has given all students a 2-week break. Mineta showed his phone with the news on the media. Thank God. I don't know about you all, but I could use a break. Kaminari exhaled, looking relieved. I swear that the next time I see that handman, I'm gonna beat him for good. Katsumi gripped her fist, tightly looking at her best friend's beaten state. Izumi, did Mr. Yagi tell you anything yet? Maybe some clue, or why are they targeting Mr. Yagi in the first place? Uraraka went on to ask, wanting to know. No, I haven't. Dad is still being checked upon by Recovery Girl, so I've no idea as well. I was just thinking, but is it possible that they attacked him because they knew about your dad's weakness? Mina went on to ask, wondering about it. But that's impossible, right? How'd they know about it? Kirishima replied. That's true, Mina. Didn't you forget that the only people who knew about it were just us and the UA staff and some of Mr. Yagi's personal friends? There's no way that they would sell him out to the villain. Ida spoke while chopping his hand. Tokoyami nodded in agreement. Indeed, it would be an irresponsible thing to do. Maybe they were trying to ruin UA's reputation or something? I mean, it's pretty much what everyone is talking about these days. Zero speculated, with All Might teaching at UA, it has surely been the talk of the news these days. Mina looked down. I'm just saying, because it seems like they were targeting Mr. Yagi, you know. I hate to say it, but there's one more person who knows about the secret. Momo looked towards Katsumi with an aghast expression, seemed to be the only one who made the connection. Katsumi, you know that Izuku won't sell that information to those villains. I'm just saying. Katsumi joined in. It seems convenient that the villain who came here knows the secret and the most suspicious one happens to be Izumi's brother. Think about this carefully. Izuku signed an NDA document for him to not reveal any information regarding All Might's quirk in exchange for a place in UA. If he's being found out of breaking the agreement, he's going straight to jail. No questions asked. Why would he bother to inform the villains of All Might's quirk just to jeopardize his chance in UA, even after doing plenty to blackmail the principal? But who else could have been? It's a top-secret information, you know. Katsumi argued, not ready to back down. I hate to say it, but he's the most suspicious one out of all of us. Ida came to join in the conversation. Ever since we found out about Yamamoto-sensei, Midoriya has been the center of those problems. Izumi, still looking unconvinced by it, wondered if indeed her brother held some responsibility for their homeroom teacher's death. Also, I just learned that Principal Daisuke also passed away this morning. Ida spoke in a solemn tone. Principal Daisuke? The one from Aldera? Shoka remembers the 50-year-old middle-aged man who was their principal back in Aldera. Yeah, his eldest son texted me about it. Says he got into a car accident while driving in Hakone. Ida said, isn't he? The one who almost got Deku kicked out? Yeah, that's him. They remember about him, how Principal Daisuke almost expelled him on that day when he stabbed Bakugu, and him being brought into the principal office only to find him to threaten him. And now they learned that he somehow got into a car accident. I don't buy it. It's obvious that Deku did something. Katsumi shakes her head off, refusing to believe it. It has Deku's name all over it again, just like with Yamamoto-sensei. Kirishima follows. Are you seriously still hung up on that? Izumi asked out loud. It was an accident. From what his son informs me, his car's brake doesn't work while speeding and it crashed into a toll station. Ida went on to inform them of what Principal Daisuke's son texted to him. By the time the ambulance got to him, he was already gone. Deku must have sabotaged the car somehow. First Yamamoto-sensei, and now this? Katsumi clicks her tongue in annoyance. That idiot has gone off the rails. Hold on. We don't even know if he's indeed responsible for all of this. And now you all just jump to the conclusion without any substantial proof? Momo came to intervene between them. Principal Daisuke drives an old car, remember? That car looks just as old as he was. You can't blame that on him. Izumi follows with Momo's comment. But it proves that he's a suspect, which is why it's safe to say that he's indeed the one who sells All Might's secret, just like how he enters the school. You mean he played on both sides? Both the heroes and villains? It's a theory, but a plausible one. But why would he do that in the first place? Just think for a moment, why don't you? To discredit him? They were both at a standoff with their own theory and beliefs, wondering if it was possible that Izuku indeed selling All Might's information to those villains who invading UA. None of them refused to back down at the fact that Deku sold All Might's secret to the villains, but they too were at a standoff, wondering if the theory was plausible. Is it true that he sold All Might to the group of villains that attacked the USJ? What if Izuku found a loophole to it? Everyone turned their attention towards Shoto as Katsumi and Momo were joining in as well. What do you mean? Izumi looked up towards Shoto direction. The NDA agreement he signed only states that he won't reveal the information from now on the moment he signs the document. But what if he told the villain of All Might quirks before entering UA and signing the contract? Hold on, that's not possible, right? We don't know anything about him ever since he ran away 10 months ago and left the school. There's very little information we had about him, and the only thing we know so far is that he knows All Might's secret, is interested in building support item, and is determined to ruin all of our lives. I think it's best if we consult things first with Principal Nizu and All Might with this information. They could decide it. Ida spoke knowing that it's best to leave things with the adult. And what if we're wrong? And what if we're right? Soon the group came to a halt before they began to leave, and they came to an agreement that they would consult with Principal Nizu about it straight away. If they were right, then Izuku is indeed a double agent for a villain. Then they need to hurry before he knows that they are onto him. Principal Nizu sat at his desk reviewing what happened to the USJ, knowing that this type of attack would certainly raise many press and reporters into demanding an interview regarding the attack. There hadn't been an attack of this scale before, and he had his suspicions that this attack originated from Izuku Midoriya himself. Ever since he came to school, his entire school has all like standing on top of a mountain with his presence, rocking the boat too much that it kept tilting from one direction to another. From All Might's secret, Katsuki Bakuga's exploding gauntlet, and now USJ were all under attack. Of course, the attack itself was orchestrated by the League of Villains, but he had a suspicion that Izuku had his hand on the attack somehow. Of course, he already took matters into his own hands and asked Detective Tsukachi to ask him some questions. Tsukachi had been his friend for a while, and they go way back, and he knew that he could count on him to get a confession out of him. Right now, he was looking at the live CCTV video where Detective Tsukachi is asking him questions regarding the attack on USJ. If he was right, then Izuku indeed had some connection, and he could use that evidence as leverage. Good afternoon. My name is Detective Tsukachi, and I just need to ask you some questions regarding the USJ event. There must be some mistake. I wasn't even there in the first place. I know, but considering the attack is involving against UA's students, we need to ask everyone what happened, no matter how uninvolved they were. It's standard procedure. Okay, I understand. Izuku nodded. I'm going to start with a simple question. Is your name Izuku Midoriya? You came in here and you don't know who I am, Detective? Izuku raised his eyebrow in question. I'm just making sure about it. Now, is your name Izuku Midoriya? Tsukachi said. Yes, he said. Did you born in Mizutofu on July 15th, 2175? Tsukachi continued. Yes, I am, he said. Is your hair white? Tsukachi asked. No, he said. Did you know of the event in USJ taking place just now? Just from what my friends informed me. I asked one of the students running in the hallway. Were you known of the group called League of Villains is responsible for the attack? No, this is the first time I've heard of it. Izuku continued. Tsukachi looked at him before taking notes and started to ask Principal Nizu's question. Did you know anyone from the USJ event? Yes. There's Class A from the Hero students. We were going to school together. Really, what school? Aldera Junior High. Tsukachi looked through his report and began to press on. It says here that you were missing for 10 months after running away from home. Is that correct? Yeah. Where do you go? Do you stay at your friend's house or perhaps with a relative? No. I bought a room at a motel for 2 nights before the landlord kicked me out after finding out about my quirkless status. Since then, I'm just living from one place after another. For 10 months? That's right. Mostly just living in the street while working with my hobbies. Hobbies? What kind? I have some interest in support items. I took an online course for engineering and have just taught myself about it and decided to enter UA. And during these 10 months of your life, did you ever encounter any villain or criminal on your way? Just a low thug trying to rob me for some money or read some news of villain attacks? So you never met any person in this picture? He showed a picture of Shigaraki, Kirojiri, and Nomu to Izuku. No, never seen them in my life. Izuku shakes his head. Looking at him, he could tell that he was telling the truth and not getting anything out of him. Okay, I'll think that's it for today, Tsukachi said, ending their interview process as Izuku got up. Tsukachi also follows before asking one more question. One last thing. Did you ever hear the word all for one? All for one. What is that? Izuku asked. Is it some kind of new campaign slogan? Oh, never mind. That will be all. Tsukachi excused as Izuku headed out to the door. Tsukachi also follows afterward and leaves the room. Soon Principal Nizu's door is opened and Tsukachi enters the room after finishing his interview. So what is it, detective? Nizu asked, waiting for the verdict. He's telling the truth. He doesn't know anything regarding all for one or ever leaking the information to them in any way. And during the interview, he asked once more. I sense no lie anywhere from him. But are you sure that Midoriya is giving intel regarding Tashinori's quirk? I know that he found out about it, but I just don't see that he could be doing something like that. Tsukachi asked, not believing that Midoriya would do something like this. I had my suspicions, but if your quirk detects none of it, then I guessed it's the truth, Nizu replied, looking dejected. Not what you expected, Tsukachi asked. Yeah, but it's the truth, unfortunately, Nizu spoke solemnly. Izuku walks out after done with his interview, as they would like to call it by now. He put his hand over his pocket as he walked and headed to his class to grab his belongings. Luckily, the school has given him a 2-week break after the USJ event, so he could take the chance to get things in order. Maybe he'll work on his new invention or perhaps get himself some training. But all that matters is that he'll take the 2-week break and use it as maximal as he can. He walked over to his class, grabbed his belongings, placed his notebooks and homework in his bag, and headed out. He checked that he was the last one to go, and everyone else was heading home as he suspected. He remembered that he left his toolbox in the studio because he left the studio after learning of the USJ event and figured that he'd be back later, but the studio is locked right now. Guess I'll come here again tomorrow morning, Izuku muttered before grabbing his bag and walking out. He scrolls to his phone to see the text he got from Kindo after finding out about the USJ situation and see if she's already replied to his text. Izuku, I heard of what happened in USJ. Izuku, are you okay? Kindo, I'm fine. Kindo, I'm still at ground beta at the time. Kindo, Vlad-sensei sent us home straight away. Kindo, I'll text you once I'm heading home. Izuku looked over to his phone. At least he knew that Kindo and her class is safe and not joining the cluster that was happening in USJ. He walks to the hallway and meets at the staircase in front. If he headed down, he's headed to the door, leaving the building. If he goes up, he's headed towards the infirmary, where Izumi is. Looking out the window, he could tell that the sun had already set and the sky was yellowish red. Nizu is probably still at his office, and there's no way he'll monitor the whole camera 24/7. Fishing his hand into his pocket, he pressed a button on his phone, allowing the camera on the upstairs floor to play on a loop for about 5 minutes, which gave him more than enough time. He climbed the stairs, continued walking towards Recovery Girl Infirmary, and opened the door. Inside, he could see both Izumi and Katsuki sleeping on their respective beds from their injuries today and the other day. Both of their hands were wrapped in casts, and they were sleeping soundly. Izuku slowly walked towards them as he stared at their injury, one caused by his work. He stared at them like a predator leering over to which prey he had taken for today, feeling like his bloodlust had reached its peak. Under his sleeve, he holds a screwdriver in his hand while staring at their sleeping face. You all look so innocent, so young. He spoke in a low tone and began to walk towards the middle to where their bed was located, so defenseless. And I could kill you right now. He held the screwdriver already pointing toward Katsuki's left eye. So easy. His hand is already holding the screwdriver with the tip aiming at his eye, just an inch from his eyelid. One push and that's all it takes. But he pulled the screwdriver away at the last second. But I wouldn't. He replied to himself, I need you to see with your very own 2 eyes that I'll ruin everything you hold near and dear. Your goals, your future, and even your destiny. Everything will crumble by my hands. So get well soon, both of you. 'Cause I'll be the judge to your very own life itself in the end. Soon he heads out, leaving the room, and those two to recover from their injury. Izumi lies on her bed and looks blankly at the ceiling in her room with the hero's poster on it. It's only about 3 days since she got discharged from the infirmary after the incident in USJ, and she had no idea what this feeling she experienced right now. She had no idea how the villain could invade the USJ itself in the first place, where it's been known as the training center for UA students for who knows how long. And the villain with the hand thing. She had to admit that he gave a bad vibe when she was close to him. And the big creature they called Nomu. It's still something that she didn't expect that they could come up with. How she saw her father having a hard time fighting against the monster itself simply proves that they weren't messing around. According to her father, the Nomu is created to battle against him with quirks that could counter well against him. And he suspected that this League of Villains is part of a group of Makes his enemy, all for one. But what concerns her above everything is the fact that she suspected her brother had some involvement with the matter. From what her father told her, the Nomu somehow knows of the injury in his stomach, and the creature keeps hitting that exact spot when battling against him. The only people who knew of the injury were her, mom, her friends, Principal Nizu, recovery girl, a close friend of her father who worked in the police department, her uncle Gran Torino, dad's old sidekick, and Izuku. If she looked at the cards on the table, Izuku would be the most obvious person who would leak the information. If he knew All Might's identity, then he knew that it was his father after he was kicked out of the house. But when she told Principal Nizu about it, he told her that Izuku didn't have anything to do with the attack at all. He even brought a detective from the police station with a lie detector quirk, and it still came up empty. But if they looked at the missing timeline, that could have been the only reason for his disappearance. The cold attitude, his pursuit for vengeance, and the use of All Might's secret for twisting Principal Nizu's arms. She grabbed her phone on the nightstand and texted over to the group message. Needed to have a talk about this matter. Izumi, are you guys free this noon? At the same time, but different location, Principal Nizu also ponders on the same matter at hand regarding the Izuku Midoriya situation. He looked at the recording of the interrogation with Detective Tsukachi as he carefully listened to everything there was about the interrogation. Word after word. He played those carefully as he tried to find out if there was an anomaly to it. But so far, he found none, just as Detective Tsukachi said to him last time. He didn't know about it, but something doesn't add up to the whole case. Not just his entry, but from the very beginning itself. He looked at the school record of Izuku Midoriya. He found that he got a bad grade during elementary school, no matter which subjects, and he barely passed the elementary. When he looked at his record from junior high, his grade was just worse than before. No matter if it's from junior high or elementary, all the teachers wrote the exact same words. Izuku Midoriya is a lazy kid and a troublemaker, getting in detention almost every week, always picking fights with other students, especially Katsuki Bakugo. He looked at both files between Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo and compared them in between. While Izuku Midoriya is described as a troublemaker, Katsuki Bakugo is showered with praise from the school that he is a talented student. No record of anything bad in it. He checked the report of the last day and found the incident where Izuku stabbed Katsuki Bakugo in the stomach, just like Tashinori told him. But what didn't make sense to him was the fact that after the incident, Izuku Midoriya didn't get expelled, but he decided to leave the school. Normally, after such a violent incident, the school would be bound to expel the kid, no matter who he was or his parents were. But the fact that Aldera chose to let Midoriya go is a question that Nizan needed to find the answer to. Why did the school choose to let him go? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and looking at the report, there wasn't any hospital report of Bakugo ever entering the hospital on that day. So where did the boy get his treatment? And where did Izuku get his merit in engineering if his grades in previous schools were horrible? Majima told me that his inventions were superb and flawless, but his grade in Aldera doesn't add up to his grade now. So how is this possible? And the poem he gave to me is a hidden message for me personally, or perhaps there's some kind of plan he's working for the future, and it's as a warning. If that is so, then what is it? He looked at the table and found the clock was already at noon, knowing that it was about time for lunch. He looked at the calendar to see if there was an appointment that he missed for today and found none. But when he looked at the date of the calendar, he found something on it that caused his eyes to widen. Something that he didn't realize before, but one that he did now. He quickly grabbed his phone before making a call. "Hello, Aizawa. Could you bring Tashinori along with his wife into my office? I need them to come to my office. Along with you as well." He just cracked Izuku Midoriya's plan. Izumi sat at a small cafe near her home along with the rest of her class, discussing her brother's involvement and possibly his true intention. Ordering her drinks, she looked over to the rest of her class, discussing her finding of her brother and what he is doing here actually is. "So they found none?" Shoto asked, confirming what Izumi was saying. "No, Dad's friend who worked at the police asked him and found nothing," Izumi replied while taking a sip of her juice. "You sure about that? Maybe I should take a round at him myself." Katsuki grunts, cracking his knuckle. He's a detective who worked at the police station and has a lie detector quirk. He found none, Izumi said, silencing his idea straight away. "Maybe he's lying. We never know," Uraraka replied. "To a detective who has a lie detector quirk? You seriously he's capable of that?" Momo asked, turning her gaze sharply to Uraraka's seat. "I'm just saying that Deku is capable of doing that," she replied. "Then how'd he do that?" Uraraka then looked down, unable to come up with an answer to her own question. "Right now, I think it's best that we need to figure out what his plans are. Which is, how he was planning to expose us." Izumi said, "He said to me and Katsuki that he was planning to destroy all of our life, turning it to hell as he was saying in his words. But how? The evidence that put us in hot water was wiped out thanks to All Might. Yeah, he took the school's security camera, bribed the school to not say the word, and warned the class as well. He even called to clean the whole place for any evidence that could be used against us. But the nerd is somehow confident from what I can tell." Katsuki grunts. He looks arrogant that he's like holding a trump card to win. "So we need to find this trump card of his and steal it," Katsumi added. "But what is it? Maybe we could find it in his workshop. He won't place it in there. He's not that dumb to do that. His backpack? How about his phone? Or computer? Look, I think we could put a hold on this whole idea first and start thinking of what he could have against us. Maybe he was bluffing. I don't think he had anything that could be used against us. And even if he chooses to write it, no one is going to believe it." "True." She nodded before sipping her juice. "The sports festival?" Tashinori looked over to the principal desk along with his wife, hearing those words with an incredulous look on his face. Tashinori sits in front of the desk, brimming in confidence as always, while Inko just sits silently, looking timid. "Correct. I think Izuku is planning on moving into the hero course by using the sports festival as a stepping stone." Nizo looked at the calendar at the time and remembered that the sports festival was about to take place in less than 2 weeks, and it's always being held each year, no matter the circumstance. "I don't understand." Tashinori still looked in confusion, not understanding what the principal was talking about. How can he climb from support to hero course by using the festival? There was a rule that was implemented about 15 years ago. As you know, the sports festival is a way for the students to get scouted by the pro and the agency for any possible future internship. It's the perfect place to get recognized by everyone in the hero industry. The winner of the sports festival can gain an internship better from known heroes, possibly from a top 10 or even many more. But that only applies to a hero student. If the winner is not from the heroic student, shall we say, general course, then it's within the school's policy that we offer a seat into the hero course. And that also applies from any course, even if it's from support. Tashinori looked at the principal incredulously when he told him about the rule, like someone just plucked his entire eyebrow out from his eye. Has anyone ever accomplished such a feat? You're looking at him now. Nizu turns his head over to his side as Tashinori follows and looks at Aizawa. "Shota did it?" Inko asked. "Yes. Aizawa accomplished such a feat in his second year and was able to enter the hero course from general. And because of that, I was able to implement such a rule. This also helps explain why Izuku is transferring to support first. He's trying to show every one of his talent and use the school rule to catapult himself into the course. If Izuku indeed trying to use that rule, then he could be in the same class as Izumi." Tashinori thought, "Principal, I think we shouldn't allow Izuku to participate in the sports festival." Knowing his incident in junior high, It's too dangerous for other participants. I can't do that. What? Why? If I rejected one student to enter, people would ask questions thinking that UA is discriminating against one student without probable cause. It could cause a ruckus thinking that we don't allow a student a fair chance to participate. Nizu went on to explain. Then we could remove the rule instead. Tashinori suggested, if there's no rule regarding him able to get on top, then we could prevent him from reaching his goal. I can't do that either. Why not? That rule has been implemented for the past 15 years. If we somehow announce that the rule is being removed, that's almost saying that UA itself is quirkist. We allowed quirkless students and everyone to enter to show that UA accepts everyone no matter the quirks. But if we reject them from entering Hero Course just because they don't have a quirk, then it's almost saying that we only reminded them that they don't belong in Heroic Course. The idea of the sports festival is to give students a chance for their career. Tashinori looked over to the desk while gritting his teeth, knowing that he was stuck with no other moves at all, knowing that he was forced to comply with the demand and go with it at this point. But then he found a great idea, one that he could use and preventing him from reaching his dream and plan. He texted his daughter about their conversation and relayed what to do to her and her friends. If he were disqualified or not participate, then there's no problem to it. Izumi looked over to her phone and found a text message from her father mentioning their conversation with Principal Nizu, revealing Izuku's plan. Guys, Dad just figured out Izuku's plan. What? What is it? She showed her phone over to the class so they could read the text messages. Dad, Izuku is planning to use the sports festival to promote himself to the hero course. Dad, find a way for him to not join the festival. They looked over to the text message and found out about his plan as they shared a look. The sports festival? How's he going to do that? Ida seems to be the only one who understands what he is saying. There's a rule to it. It states that any non-hero course student who enters the sports festival and wins first place, then the school is obligated to move the said winner into the heroic course per school regulations. Everyone listens to Ida's explanation, as this is the first time they heard such a rule before. That Deku think he can beat me? Katsuki mutters. Hold on. That only applies if you were to take first place. If he weren't, then it's all good. Right? If we sabotaged his equipment beforehand or forced him to surrender then. Right at that moment, Momo quickly got up from her chair and looked over to Izumi, who just saying those words. Izumi, are you still planning on doing what we did to him 10 years ago? Haven't you learned anything? Izumi looked at the table before looking up to where Momo was looking. Look, I understand, but we can't allow him to take place in such a dangerous event. I'm sure Dad has his best interest for him. Really, from what I could tell, you all still want to beat him up just to make him stop participating. Yeah, and what about it? Katsuki replied harshly. Haven't you learned anything? He proved to us that he's done taking our beating when he stabs you, and the first thing you thought is, I want to beat him up so bad so that he won't participate. Where's the logic in that? Have you all so lost it that you just want to fall into your habit because you can't stand the idea of him being a hero? I won't take part in this. She gets up from her seat and puts money to pay for her own drink. I said this before, but I'm done with your scheme to put him in his place as to what you guys are saying. If you guys want to humiliate yourself, then go ahead. Momo, wait. Jairu tries to reach over to her hand, but she pulls away from her grasp and quickly leaves as the rest of her class sees her making a leave from the cafe. After the conversation has ended, everyone takes their leave and everyone is headed back into their own house. Some wanted to get out to get something to eat. Others chose to hang out, while those who got left chose to head back to their home. Katsuki, however, decides to choose the time to wander around, not wanting to be at home right now. He wanted to have a train for the preparation for the sports festival situation after knowing before anyone else. He wanted to test himself to see how far he could go after he got out of commission from the USJ, where he heard that the place was under attack by a bunch of villains. If he were there, those villains wouldn't stand a chance. As he was heading home, the sun sinking lower, he trudged toward the school gates. The shadows cast by the setting sun stretched across the ground. But as Katsuki was walking, he noticed something strange about the shadow. There was an odd shape at the top of the building, almost like a person. He turned around, squinting against the sunlight. Gazing up at the enormous school building, he could just barely make out the figure of someone standing on the roof. Before he had time to think, he shot off toward the school. He threw open the doors and raced up the stairs. Using his explosions, he boosted his speed. The doors to the rooftop should be locked. So who could be up there? And why? He slammed open the roof access door, the metal clanging loudly as it hit the side of the building. Ghosted against the sunlight was a familiar silhouette, short with a mess of green hair. His fingers were curled around the cold metal of the high chain-link fence. Izuku turned slowly, glancing over his shoulder at the intruder. "What the hell are you doing up here?" Katsuki asked. Izuku turned away from him, staring out at the school grounds below them. He stalked closer. Snatching Izuku's shoulder, he spun him around. "I asked what you were doing here," he shouted. "Why?" Izuku frowned. "Afraid I'm going to jump?" Katsuki took a step back before composing himself like he always did, turning him into the boastful kid back in Aldra, like always. "Yeah, maybe you should. The view is good and no one is here anyway." Katsuki smirks while taking a step forward. This is it. This could be his chance to finally erase Deku's existence from his life. All Might himself wanted the quirkless out of his life, and he too wanted him gone. If the nerd somehow got into an accident and can't participate in the sports festival, then his whole plan is falling apart. I suppose it's a good view. Sunset itself looks warm and brings the calmness inside. Izuku stared at the sky red-colored. Fit for an end to a quirkless piece of trash such as you. Waste of air anyway. Should have pushed you off from the rooftop back when I had the chance at school. Katsuki spats, but from the way he looks at the person in front of him, he remains calm. You want to push me off from the rooftop so badly? You want me to die? Yeah, your dad told us to do it anyway. So just do us all a favor and die. Katsuki rushes in, using his explosion to boost himself forward and ready to launch a full explosion blast, hoping that the force would knock him off from the rooftop and he would fall off. That was his first initial plan, but then something unexpected happened. Izuku sidestepped away from his line of fire and moved to the side, causing the metal fence to meet with his explosion instead and creating a loud boom on the rooftop and destroying the metal fence instead of the green-haired boy like he was planning on doing. Boom! Smoke and dust began to cover the building rooftop as everyone within a mile radius could hear the booming sound of the explosion coming from Katsuki's explosion. The ashen blonde looked to the side, seeing the green-haired boy grinning at his failed attempt. The smug look on his face made Katsuki want to wipe it off. Soon he could hear people looking over to the building that was on smoke from the result of Katsuki's explosion as both of them were staring at each other. I suggest you start coming down, Bakugu, unless you wanted to answer to the landlord why there's an explosion to his building. Katsuki grits his teeth like it was about to break, wanting to wipe the smugness off from his face, but he can tell that he didn't have the time before the owner of the building comes up to see what or who caused the explosion. Katsuki shouldered past him, trudging toward the stairs. "If I see you at the sports festival, I'll kill you. I don't care if I have to be the one who did that in the arena." He slammed the door behind him, leaving Izuku alone on the roof. He never changes. 2 weeks have passed since the USJ event, and everyone is returning to the UA building once again to join the class again. Izuku walked into his classroom and met with his class friends, discussing what they were doing in 2 weeks and catching up with each other. He could see Hatsum was still looking the same, but instead with much more energy of being depraved away from the studio, unable to do her work while they were on a break. The bell rang, and Power Loader entered the class, holding a file in his hand. "Okay, everyone, settle down. I have some announcements for all of you." Everyone began to take their seat as Power Loader went on to explain. As you all know, it is in UA tradition to hold an event during the first year event weather. It's an internship or a scouting from the support company, and this year will be no different for all of you. We are holding a sports festival event. The class starts to groan, knowing that such an event won't excite them at all. Everyone in UA knows that the sports festival is a chance exclusive only for the heroic course students or the general course who try to climb their way into the heroic course event. So having support course students there won't make much difference. Now I know that such an event can't be quite daunting for all of you, but it also provides an excellent opportunity for all of you to showcase your talent. Power Loader continued trying to persuade them, but he could tell that their reaction wasn't filled much with enthusiasm. "Okay, I need to know firsthand who is looking forward to participating in this event." He asked, hoping for a participant to shoot their hand up. But no one is raising their hand, knowing that they would be outclassed. But one hand raising from the back of the class belongs to Izuku, and then Hatsum follows afterward, and several students as well, resulting only in 7 students took place. All right, I'll submit your name, and I'll send it to the principal for them to be registered for the next month from today. Power Loader replied, after finishing writing their names on the clipboard. Izuku raised his hand upward, gaining Power Loader's attention. Yes, Midoriya. I want to ask for your permission to use the studio for a whole month, he replied. Can I ask for what purpose? He might have the idea already, but he still wants to know. Izuku takes a deep breath before looking back at Power Loader, his gaze hardening. The sports festival is taking place in a month, and I would like more time to prepare for it. Izuku pauses, taking a breath. I intend to win. He immediately hears multiple people murmurs and snorts from behind him, but he pays them no mind. Power Loader is still staring at him, the exposed lower half of his face not giving anything away. You do know that nobody from the support course has ever won the sports festival, right? Power Loader kept staring back at Izuku. In fact, nobody outside of the hero course has ever won the sports festival. I'm not trying to lower your expectations, but mostly the support course students are using this event just to get scouted by a large company for their invention. Izuku does not bend under the gaze. He only seems to bristle more as Power Loader speaks. The pair are silent for a time before Izuku finally speaks. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. Izuku grips his right wrist through his sleeve. It just means that they didn't want it enough to take the final leap. It becomes clearer to Midoriya that they were no longer talking about the sports festival. Power Loader is silent for a time, but eventually, his mouth breaks out into a wide smile. All right, kid, let's see what you got. He handed Izuku the form with a stamp on the corner with a small green stamp. Though I will need to see your certifications and experience before I let you go unsupervised, all right? Izuku nodded and began to walk back to his desk, grabbing his bag, slinging it over his shoulder, and making his way over to the studio, knowing that he had work to do for him to participate. A lot of inventions to work on, and a lot of planning for him. The sports festival. Despite just being a high school athletic competition, it was one of the biggest televised events of the year. Millions tune in to watch the UA Sports Festival live, to see the future of Hero Society compete in a tournament for dominance. What a joke. He opened his drawer, wanting to grab the blueprint for his invention that he worked on a few days ago, when he spotted a notebook placed on it, remembering how he always wrote on it, creating some designs for hero costumes, quirk analysis, and even ideas for support items. Looking back, he never expected that he'd turn into this image he currently lived in. If he asked himself if he was glad to leave the Yagis 10 months ago, the answer would be yes, because he learns that to change something, you need to have the power to do so, for people to listen to the words you say. And the him from before lacks the power and voice to say what needs to be said. And yet somehow, he couldn't bring himself to throw his notebook that's been thrown into the fish pond and blown by Bakugo. Almost like he's still attached to his past self. Guess it's not that easy, huh? He replied under his breath before putting the notebook in his drawer and closing it down. Izuku moved over to his desk at the studio and started finishing the final adjustment for the request from the senior, who specifically requested their item for him to help improve with. He was putting the gauntlet back to his desk before he saw the door opening and saw Kindo walking in with 2 of her friends. He asked. One is a girl with dark moss green, which is much darker than his hair color, and the other is a boy with messy gray hair, almost like a color of steel from the way it looks. Hey, Midoriya, you busy? Kindo calls out to him as he removes his goggles. No, just working on a final adjustment. Izuku replied. I assumed that you came here for your request. Yeah, I just came from the class and thought I should check it up for that. Kindo replied before forgetting to introduce her friends. Oh, I almost forgot this is my classmate. Setsuna and Tetsu. Hey, nice to meet you. Setsuna waved her hand as Tetsu came to shake his hand instead. Likewise, Izuku replied and took his hand to shake it. That's a firm grip you got there, Tetsu replied, looking impressed by his firm hands. Thanks, I tend to get workout twice a week, Izuku replied. A support course student who hits the gym. You sure are different, aren't you? Setsuna commented, showing her toothy grin. Some people said that I'm a bit different from others. Izuku paused for a moment before answering. Anyway, your stuff should be around here somewhere. Let me take a look. He rummaged around the counter, trying to find her support items, since it was mixed between his work and Hatsume's. While he was working in a systematic order, Hatsume is more of a carefree type of girl who likes to place things in order. And you made this all by yourself? Setsuna looked over to the invention he had on the table, and they were looking all impressed by it. Yes, mostly that's all me, he replied while still searching behind the counter. Man, you must have some crazy quirk to create this sort of thing. Tetsu chimes in, and Kindo jolts before elbowing him. Tetsu. What? I don't have it. I'm quirkless. As soon as those words left his mouth, Kindo instantly regretted not alerting her classmate about it. While she didn't care about his quirk status at all, she had no idea what her classmate might actually think about it or share a different view about it. Huh, that's kind of awesome, you know. Man, you rock. Yeah, it's pretty cool if you ask me. Once again, like before, Izuku was momentarily stunned by what they were saying just now. He could tell from Kindo's surprised reaction that she didn't tell them about his quirk as well, which made their reaction completely genuine. Thanks, Izuku replied, clearly glad to hear it coming from them. Soon he found what she was looking for and handed it to her. Well, here you go. I made some alterations to it, but it should be working far better than what you intended. She tried to put it on, and judging by her friend's reaction, she could tell that it was pretty cool. It was two collapsible shield-like guards that she now wore on both forearms. They were black with teal-colored accents spread across the top layer, formed in a semi-hexagonal shape. The initial design was to create sort of gauntlet for her, but he realized that the gauntlet only increased the user attack power, so he decided to create something versatile that could be used for offense and defense. So when she enlarged her right hand, the device expanded with it, covering more surface area than it was a second ago. Wow, that's so cool, Tetsu replied, looking amazed by her new items. You really are the real deal, aren't you? Setsuna commented. Thanks, but I suspect that you can't use this for the sports festival, Izuku said while moving some stuff and cleaning up the shelf. Yeah, wait, how did you know? Kindo did a double take on it, wondering how could he know about it. It was in the rule that only support students are allowed to bring their invention into play with a certain amount, Izuku replied after reading the rulebook just a few minutes ago before they came, trying to find out about advantages he could work on with. It sounds like you're taking place for the sports festival, Tetsu said. You're right about that, Izuku said. Wow, guess we're going to battle it out at the arena, huh? Tetsu replied, somehow looking excited already. I hope so, Izuku replied. But are you going to be okay? The competition is going to be tough, you know. I meant those Class A is pretty powerful if you ask me. From the looks of it, they just straight out cocky. Even dripping water can penetrate stones. They're not that unbeatable. Izuku commented. Yeah, you're right. All right, now I'm getting fired up. Tetsu raised his hand in excitement. We better get practice too. Don't want to lose in front of them. Yeah, you want to join training with us too, Midoriya? Thanks, but I have to say no. There's still plenty of stuff I have to do right now. Okay then, if you change your mind, just give me a text. Sure. Good luck with your training. Izuku said his goodbye as the three of them made their way out of the studio. Izuku left to continue to his work, and he just realized that Hatsume was sitting next to him while smirking at him like she had just gotten herself a new entertainment besides a new request for support items. What? Hatsume shrugs her shoulder. Nothing. I just didn't know you had a friend outside of our class, let alone a pretty girl. She's just a friend, Izuku said flatly. A beautiful girl who happens to be your friend. Hatsume corrected. Izuku stared at her. Do I detect some kind of jealousy? No. Just want to know who got the crush on you. Hatsume smiles gleefully. Just don't, Izuku said dismissively. Come, Midoriya. She moved her seat up close to him. She called you for absolutely no reason. It was just an excuse to talk to you. She came for her support item, which she requested before the USJ thing happened. And you just happened to work with that project, pulling all-nighters non-stop to finish with it. She raised her brow in question, causing Izuku to stare at her back, but he could tell that he was not going to win with this argument. Soon the door opened again, and Izuku thought that Kindo might need something else from him, but much to his surprise, it wasn't her. It was a different ponytail girl. Do you know where Izuku Midoriya is? Momo asked the group of students in the support course. Yeah, he's right over there. One of the students points their finger over to his desk. Friend of yours too? Hatsum asked, wondering how Izuku knew so many girls in a short amount of time. Not even close. Izuku replied shortly. Izuku got up from his chair and looked towards her as Hatsum looked over at his hardened expression like she had never seen him acting like this before. It's like he's pulling 180 degrees in under a minute. Can we talk for a moment? I'm busy. Now F off. Please. It's important. Seeing how she won't budge, Izuku decides to comply and just be done with it. If he didn't, he suspected that she would just bother him the next day for who knows how long. So he signals her to follow him as they both go out of the studio to find themselves a place to have a conversation. At the cafeteria, Izuku and Momo sat opposite each other, staring into each other's eyes. Izuku chose this place because it was so public, and if someone wanted to cause a ruckus, he had over 100 pairs of eyes as witnesses on who was right and who was wrong. Izuku crossed his hand, waiting for the black-haired girl to start the conversation. He also wanted to get this thing over with. So are you going to start, or do I have to order a lunch before I'm waiting for you to speak up? Momo then jolts for a short second, fishes her hand to her bag, and hands an envelope to the table in front of him as Izuku stares at the white envelope, not understanding what it means. What is this? Izuku asked. It's a letter of recommendation for Shiketsu High. My parents have some connection with the principal, and they were willing to take you there, along with compensation money of 80,000 yen from my personal bank account. And what's this? Izuku continued to ask. I want you to not participate in the sports festival event, and possibly go to a different school, Momo replied, turning his face into a scowl. So what's this? A bribery? He looked suspiciously at the sight of the envelope itself. No. Momo shakes her head. I want you to find a path for yourself. I understand that you wanted to get yourself a payback against us for what we did, and I deserve that. But nothing. Izuku silenced her. If you think shipping me to a different school would somehow silence me for good, you were simply too naive. I take my chances in a month at the festival. And you think winning the sports festival and climbing your way will do? Momo returned the question. As Izuku fixed his posture, I don't want to see you getting abused and bullied like what happened back in middle school. I'd rather you be away from all of us so you won't get hurt ever again. They were going to use the festival to show your place, Izuku. They won't stop until they see you defeated and possibly dropped out. Please, you can curse at me however you want. You can be mad at me all you want and lash out, and I won't even be mad about it. But I'm asking you for yourself. Don't participate in the sports festival for your safety. Izuku took a silence for a moment, closing his eyes before looking at her and opening his eyes again. Like I said, I take my chances at the festival. Momo looked towards him like he was about to march into his death. She hadn't told him about her class plan to eliminate him before or during the festival. She knew that they would do anything just to see him bending down in front of them, but somehow he didn't seem to care, like he was already know of their doing. What happened to you? Momo asked, looking all concerned as Izuku stared at her coldly. Really, Izuku? What happened? Because this isn't you. Izuku stared at her for a moment before he leaned forward from his seat and asked resentfully in a low tone, What would you know about me? What would your presumption about me be, exactly? That I should go begging for your charity? And you waving your checkbook around like some magic wand is going to make me forget how you and everyone broke my entire life for 10 years. Even if I had to drag my way into the festival with a broken leg or a broken arm or even a battered body, I'll claw my way in and drag you and everyone in your class from your gilded throne. He got up from his seat and left the envelope on the table, not taking it. You don't want to be in my way. That's fine by me. But I'll be dragging you all for sure during the festival, down to where everyone else is currently standing. And if I were you, I'd use that ticket to get yourself out from UA, before everything in this place crumbled into a pile of dust and ash. He then makes his leave away from a room, leaving the black-haired girl alone on the table as she stares at the untaken envelope. Izuku then returned to his studio after he was done with his conversation with Momo and let himself drown in work for his support items for the festival. He already asked his friend from class to help him work on the other students' projects while he was busy with his own project, and they were more than happy to take things from his plate after knowing how determined he was to win. He was working late alone in the studio as Hatsum was heading out about 30 minutes ago, and he was left alone in there. "Somebody is busy," a voice called out from the open door frame. Izuku flinched, turning around to face his visitor. Immediately upon lying eyes upon them, he grits his teeth in anger, seeing the visitor. It was a girl wearing a standard UA outfit as her hair was short ashen blonde colored, just like her brother's. The only difference is that she wore a skirt and had a feminine feature, unlike her brother. "What do you want, Katsumi?" "I'm busy," Izuku said dismissively. Right in front of the door, Katsumi enters with a scowl on her face. "We need to talk, Deku." "I'm busy." Those were the first words out of Izuku's mouth, as he didn't bother to lock eyes with her. She walked forward in his direction and grabbed his shoulder. Her hand started to smoke. "I'm going to tell you this as nicely as possible. Drop the F out of the sports festival." "No, now F off out of here." He brushed her off, not wanting to deal with her antics. "I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. Drop out, or I'll send you to a hospital." She grits her teeth and pops an explosion in her right hand as an act of intimidation. "If you could do that, you would have done it ages ago before coming here. So stop wasting my time with your hollow words," he replied in a bored tone, not even sparing her a look. "I'm serious. Drop out, or I'll put you out myself right now." But no matter how loud she yelled or how she kept popping the explosion in her hand, there was no sign of scared anywhere inside of him, like she was finding her threat to be funny. Katsumi, who looked at him as she was being ignored, felt an incredible rage deep inside of her right now. Never before has she been ignored, let alone not being acknowledged by the likes of him. He was quirkless. He was useless. He was nothing but a waste of air. "You useless piece of trash. Don't ignore me." Had enough, she grabbed over to his shoulder, trying to force him to drop out, even if she had to get extreme, and used her quirk to convince him. But Izuku then twisted her hand that held him and slammed her against the table workshop. He stomped at the chain that was holding a car engine on the ceiling and let the weight fall in just inches away above from her face. Katsumi's eyes widened in fear and her body shook as she could feel the weight that was about to crush her head. The only thing keeping her head from turning to mush was Izuku's hand that was holding the chain from letting the engine slam her head. "F, get this thing off me, Deku." She screamed in panic, afraid that it's going to crush her. "Stop screwing around and get this thing out of my face." Wrong answer. He slightly loosened his grip, causing the engine to move closer to her face. "F. Fine. I'll leave you alone. I'll leave you alone." She screamed in panic, not wanting to get crushed. Izuku then dragged her shoulder harshly as she dropped into the floor before he dropped the engine, creating a loud banging sound with the engine colliding against the table. Katsumi looked at his face, as this is the first time she saw him showing this anger to anyone. Like he was ready to just drop the chain, wipe the stains off the floor, and dump the body. She didn't know how to react, and she could have sworn she saw something that looked like a shadow of a devil looming behind him. Izuku looked over to the computer where he was working on the new design for the new repulsor blaster of his right now. He began to start assembling his new invention and adding more power to it, and had an easy way to utilize it in any situation. The rule of the sports festival states that support students can only bring 5 inventions during the festival, and they didn't tell the students how many stages there were for the event. So he needs to plan and use what he only needed. He had already gone for the repulsor blaster in his mind, just like the one that he used during the entrance exam, and his leg booster for helping him fly from the entrance exam. But he could tell that using that same invention, it was bound to be known, so he already worked up on a side project of his. It was a collapsible metal staff. Nothing complicated, just a standard retracted metal staff. Because there's a rule stating that he wasn't allowed to bring an invention that could inflict sharp pain or burn an opponent. The other is a support item, only for assisting him, acting as a central monitor for his whole invention. He called it a vision gazer, acting as a communicator and checking the status of his gear integrity situation, almost working like a central computer. The last invention is something he would like to call a secret weapon. He hasn't worked around it just yet, but he had every intention of using that invention to participate, calling it a last plan. He was working on his invention and saw a smear of vital fluid on his working table before wiping it off with his rag. He knows that vital fluid belongs to Katsumi after her failed attempt to discourage him from participating in the sports festival. At least this confirms that someone didn't want him to participate. He would bet his hand that All Might had his hand on the pot. Nisa might know about it to some degree, but he won't try to do something of this brazen. The mammal isn't stupid, unlike his stepfather. But he won't just give up like this. He knew that he's still holding all the cards in hand, and even if they wanted to put a leash on him, he was no longer the type who caved in like before. You can't even tell Deku to F off? How pathetic are you? Katsuki looked over to his sister as she averted her eyes away from her brother. Right now, they were training together at some abandoned park for the sports festival. They were together with Izumi, Kirishima, Kaminari, Shoto, Shoka, and Uraraka as they all listened to what Katsumi was saying when she came to confront Izuku yesterday. Come on, it's just Deku for crying out loud. A little barking, and he would eventually cower to us like before. Katsuki told her off, wondering what's with the scared attitude. Then you go there and tell him yourself. I'm not going at those things again. Katsumi points her finger, telling him off, still feeling shaken over what happened yesterday. What's going on? I don't get it. Izumi asked, still feeling like something was missing out. Start from the beginning. So Katsumi began to explain what happened yesterday from the time she went to confront him in his studio alone. How she told him to drop out of the festival and he told her to leave him alone before ignoring her. And when she tried to use force, she found herself slammed to a table with her face inches away from being slammed by a car engine. As soon as she was done telling them, they all shared a shocked look, not expecting that kind of thing at all. They suspected that he might be threatening them with words like he had been doing since he was here, but never would they suspected that he'd try to bash Katsumi's head with an object that weighed around 200 pounds. That's psychopath. Katsuki grits his teeth in anger. He really trying to do that. Kaminari looked over feeling a bit scared from what she was telling. And that's not even close. I'm sure that he wasn't bluffing there. He really was trying to drop the chain there. Katsumi spoke quietly, still feeling shaken by the event itself. Then we need to change our strategy. If we can't threaten him before it takes part, then we just have to eliminate him during the festival. Katsuki spoke. Eliminate, are you? You want to what? Beat him up like before? Izumi looked aghast at the idea that was on the table. She only agrees to talk to him, not using brute force. I won't do so much damage that the fight will be stopped, but I'm going to get close till he wishes he wasn't messing with us. Then all of a sudden, Izumi pushed Katsuki against the tree behind him as she glared at him with much hatred emitted from her eyes. Haven't you learned nothing? I told you that you're not going to do something stupid like that. Izumi threatens him while squeezing her hand over to his hand. He started it when he tried to bash my sister's head. Katsuki replied, countering Izumi's words. That doesn't justify your action. After all the things we put through, do you still want to fall back into your habit and use violence? I won't let you guys do this sort of thing again. I agree that Izuku shouldn't participate in the sports festival, but you try to use force is not how I'm going to go with it. If we don't force him, then he's not going to learn about his place. I'd say if we did that, all he learns is that we're still the same people like in Aldera. Both Izumi and Katsuki are at a standoff, not wanting to back down from their plan. Izumi refused to use violence and force to make him bend to their will ever again. Last time it cost her family. She can't imagine what's going to happen if she continues this road again. I'd hate to say it, but Bakugo has got a point on this one. Kirishima rubbed the back of his head while looking at Izumi. Kirishima, how could you say something like that? Agreeing to this kind of thing? Look, we know that Deku somehow had something that could be used against us. But we don't know what it is, and it could sink our future in this school. I'm sorry, but I'm with Bakubro on this one. Me too, Izumi. I always wanted to go to UA, and I'm not going to let Deku ruin that for me. Yeah, I got the same here. I'm sorry. You have All Might as your dad, but we don't. We have to worry about our future here. Soon everyone went on to Bakugo's plan to silence Izuku for good, as Izumi looked baffled at their choice, leaving her all by herself. Now you're all alone, Izumi. It's your choice. Katsuki asked her one last time, waiting for her verdict. You're all insane. You want to just assault him on the biggest, most known festival in Japan just because you don't want to see him reaching his dream? Izumi looked around and saw their looks, knowing there was nothing left to convince them anymore. Fine. You want to do this mess yourself. Be my guest, but don't come and tell me you regret it, because I don't want to participate in this debacle. Izumi soon walked out from their group and decided to do her set of training all by herself. While she didn't exactly agree with their method, Izumi still thinks that her brother taking part in this event isn't going to do well for him. Looking back, maybe Momo had some idea that what they were doing wasn't right. It's just too late for them to realize it. Katsuki looked at Izumi's back as she began to walk away from their group, leaving him to deal with her brother. He still couldn't let go of the humiliation he got during the first day when Deku slammed his head against the fire extinguisher. And not only that, but how he somehow sabotaged his gauntlet, making it explode like that. It doesn't make sense. He knows that he's the one who came up with the design for it. How he spends hours working on a mechanism and thinks that he somehow made a mistake like that. That's not possible. It has to be Deku's fault. He must have sabotaged him because he can't stand the fact that he's the best and is jealous of his success. His phone beeps with a notification sound, as the rest of them in the field also have, wondering if there's an announcement or something in their group chat. Katsuki opens his phone and finds a link to an article posted online in a big bold letter, exposing hero student K for school violence. In this era, everyone wishes to pursue a heroic career and become a hero after seeing that our world is full of them. Not only is the presence of heroes blooming, but All Might's presence in Japan is also a source of motivation for everyone to pursue heroism. Student K always strives to be the best in every way possible, trying to pursue heroism as his main career. Student K's desire to be a #1 hero who will surpass All Might has been the driving force that kept this individual moving forward in their life. But being the best and wanting to be a hero is hardly a novel at this point. Look no further at Endeavor, the #2 hero, but the difference between Endeavor and Student K can be summed up in a few points. Student K has suicide baiting many students who dare to want to be a hero as well. We interviewed the victims. See the images of some talk. Student K's quirk was born when he was 4 years old. His first act with his quirk is to use it to steal money from a kid. One girl stood up against him. She was quirkless. The teachers, in a large majority, told the students not to bother the imminent star. The injuries this one quirkless girl received aren't a one-time thing. Student K has damaged several belongings of people who dared to commit the cardinal sin of looking at him or thinking they could do something better than him. A rule of thumb for Student K's previous school is that no one is allowed to outshine Student K. No one. Student I has always been the victim of Student K's abuse, whether it's physical or psychological, and has been living under the impression that no one can outshine Student K. Therefore, Student I was harassed, and the school made a point of saying how he has no future, and all Student I worth is to be Student K dummy test. Student K has been repeatedly using his quirk to attack anyone who dares to disrespect him, including Student I, who didn't escape from continuous bullying for 10 years straight and has been under his thumb and was repeatedly told that his existence is a waste of air. Student K has been responsible for several city property damage for illegal quirk usage during his mission to ensure his path of becoming the #1 hero by discouraging other students outside of school property by any means necessary. Many students from Student K schools give up pursuing UA or any hero school. What's the point? They may cross paths with Student K and be their punching bag. Student K damaged many people physically and emotionally, treating anyone who comes into his path like a bug under your shoe. Is this the hero you want? Heroes come from many walks of life and can change for the better. However, we shouldn't ignore the red flags. Student K is incapable of being a hero and doesn't have the qualifications to become one. A real hero helps people, and the only person Student K wants to help is himself. Think of it this way. If you need help, can you say with 100% conviction that Student K will truly help you? Katsuki stared at the article with wide eyes, one that could be compared to a plate at the dinner table. His hand is shaking from nervousness as his entire past is being hung in the air for everyone to see. He knows of this mysterious K whose name is on the article. It was him. His phone continues to beeping as comments from the article are pouring heavily criticizing this K character. User Splash Zone 69, what an idiot. I don't feel secure with this idiot roaming around. User Skull Conductor. He must have been born with a massive ego. A massive glass ego. User DJ Ngobo Y. Is their parent or the school not able to teach the kid a simple concept? This student K's head must be messed up. User The Alien Hunter. This student K must be sick in his head. User Kids 777. And look at what he did to that boy. It must have been from Quirk. User Biggie 7575. Does the school support this kind of act? What kind of school are they running? User King Bob Yellow. And he just telling people to kill themselves? Is he for real? User MusicMastin99. If I find this kid in the street, I'll give him the beating of a lifetime. User Lightning Boy. I'm with you. Do you want to borrow my bat or just a straight-up fist? User Lunario21. This dude is a psychopath. Legit. Have you guys seen the scar? He is more of a villain. User Johnny Rideout 1979. Number 1 hero? More like the number 1 psychopath. The comments grew. Many people reblogged, and soon the article had more than 70K views in less than an hour. Pro heroes are commenting on this text, and no one is painting him to be on the right side of this story. MT Lady Official. Oh my god, look at the scars. He has been doing this to others since he was 4 years old. So, doing the math, he has attacked those kids for 10 years. Oh my god. Burning Official. Is it a burn scar? Is a student K quirk? Is fire type of quirk? Headshot Official. This type of behavior needs to be addressed immediately before it spreads further. It was simply unacceptable. Fatgum Official. Disgusting. He is a villain in the making. The notification from his phone continues to beep every second as he reads the comment, trying to find out who this student K that was being mentioned in the article. He realizes that he's getting caught in the middle of a storm, just less than a week before the sports festival, to the biggest stadium for hero students to showcase their talent and be recognized by the world. It's also the biggest stadium for everyone to see if he's indeed the student K on the article. Then someone texted him on the messaging platform as he opens to see it belonged to Deku. Guess he still has his number after all. Deku, alone, rooftop, 11 a.m. And on the bottom is the location on his phone maps. True to his word, he went to the roof of the while walking in rage, almost foaming like a rabid dog. He loudly stomped the metal staircase as he climbed up, wanting to get some answer for what Deku just did. Arriving at the rooftop, he saw Deku standing with both hands in his pocket while looking all relaxed and carefree before turning towards the door where he came from. Think this is funny? Katsuki showed the article on the phone whose right now is reaching 170K viewers. Of course. Izuku replied with a delighted smile on his face. This took a lot of effort. Do you like it? F you. Katsuki snapped, his anger radiating from his expression while walking left and right. I didn't get to where I am, who I am, by letting some little quirkless piece of trash like you walk all over me. Where's your phone? Where's the phone? Katsuki angrily asked, starting to get impatient. However, Izuku kept his composure and showed a thin smile. You're slipping, Kakin. This isn't like you at all, looking all flustered and scared. Katsuki reels back, noticing that this isn't like him at all, acting all scared and impatient, feeling like he's being chased by someone in his rear. He never felt this kind of feeling before, and it feels alien to him. You felt scared, aren't you? If that article starts to grow, it's only a matter of time before the sports festival turns from your glory stage to your execution stand. You better start handing me your phone right now, before I start putting you in your place. Katsuki threatened, popping his explosion in his hands. Izuku sighed, looking at him. I always want to know, how do you walk around with your head up high with stains on your hands? Oh, there's plenty of stains on your hands too. Katsuki replied, wiggling his hands in front of Izuku's face. Yamamoto-sensei, Principal Daisuke, you think we forgot about them? I know you killed them somehow. All deserving, with nothing to tie me to their cause of death. Izuku calmly replied, And you won't do anything stupid, or that article will be the last thing you're worried about. I am the last person you want to mess with, Deku, because I will F you back in ways you never even imagined. Katsuki roared loudly in front of Izuku's face, but the green-haired kid didn't seem fazed. Really? Izuku tilted his head in question. You're going to try your best to not get brought down, Student K? Katsuki scoffs before smirking in confidence like his usual self. You're doing all this for nothing. No one knows who this K student is, and eventually, this is all going to be buried in a month. You won't bring us down. All of this is for nothing. You got your article. I got All Might in my corner. Katsuki yelled out with both hands raised in the air, feeling like he was untouchable. Izuku stared at him after his ranting before he finally decided to speak. Wow. I didn't get it before, Buckaroo, but you can't be reasoned with, guilt-controlled. This whole back-and-forth thing turns out to be pointless. That's right. I'll do what I want, when I want, to whomever I want. Count on it. I will. Izuku nodded in understanding. Thank you. Izuku then walked out from the conversation and began to head to where Katsuki came in casually. The ashen blonde-haired kid looked like he was staring at Deku's back while looking unfazed by his threat like he was still looking down on him. Again, Deku looks at him as if he is a joke, that he's not being taken seriously. Katsuki refused to bend down to the likes of Deku. Not now or ever. He was the one who forced people to bend their knees in front of him, not the other way around. But somehow, during his outburst, a small part inside of him knew that he was the one who was losing to this conversation. Prove it, then. Do you have some proof? Katsuki challenged back, waiting for him to come up with a shred of evidence to be used against him. Nothing couldn't be found, not after All Might had come to Aldera and wiped everything there was to it. Izuku stopped with his track as Katsuki grinned, thinking that he was bluffing after all, that finally for today, he found some form of footing in this conversation. Izuku stood with his hand holding the door handle with his face in front of the door before turning his head to his back and smiling smugly toward Katsuki as the ashen blonde-haired kid looked startled by his unwavering confidence. You have no idea. Seeing how he smiled before taking his leave, Katsuki felt like someone just poured a truckload of ice water on his entire body. He knew by how he smiled just now. He wasn't bluffing. Today is the day of the UA Sports Festival. The stadium was packed with many audiences from civilians and pro heroes who were dying to see it in action. Most of the heroes that came today were scouting for a promising intern for their agency in the future. As for the students, they were waiting in the waiting room preparing for their names to be called by the announcers to head to the arena. The rest of class waited in their waiting room as they began to get nervous since most people would watch their performance there. Some of them were sitting on the bench calmly, focusing on the task ahead. Others were lying their backs on the wall, waiting for their names to be called, and shaking their legs out. Man, I wanted to wear my costume. Show off a little. Ashido whined, constantly adjusting her PE uniform to make it look better and fit her the way she wanted. Well, it is made, so it'll be fair for other courses. Only we have extra outfits after all, Sato explained, nervously wringing his large hands. And there's a reason why we don't do serious quirk activities in PE tracksuits. Ojiro sighed, forced to have the back of his pants ride low so his massive tail could easily move. It was a little embarrassing for him, though, and surely only added to his overall nerve for the entire event. Guys, do you think that Deku would show up? Uraraka asked as the rest of the class turned around. I hope so. The nerd has some messed up plan cooked for us, but it won't matter once we eliminated him. Katsuki grunts while cracking his explosion in his palms. Yeah, all it takes is for him not to pass the first event, and everything will done, Shoto added while looking coldly as usual. Remember, we targeted the nerd first and tried to rough him up badly, so he wouldn't get disqualified, Katsuki told the class as they all nodded. Izumi, who was still in the room, shut her locker door loud as she began to make her way out of the room faster than anyone else, only to be followed by Momo. The rest of the class watches as Izumi make her leave knowing that she heavily disagrees with their idea along with Momo. Ishi Hagakure looks over. Leave her. Once we eliminate Deku, we can worry about her later on. Katsuki replied as he also headed towards the door, making his way out. And now, the first years of Hero Course enter for your viewing pleasure. Present Mick's voice hit the eardrums of the students as they walked out of the dimly lit corridor into the sandy arena of the stadium, straight into the blazing sun, and surrounded by several thousand excited attendees. Coming up are the fledgling heroes in training, some of them different, all of them exciting. Let me hear you give a big applause to classes 1A and 1B. Katsuki marched forward, looking prideful as he was grinning in confidence, as all these thousands of people saw him and already judged as they knew him. Katsuki tries to soak up the feeling that he is experiencing right now. All the praise and cheers were directed to him as he knew deep inside of him that he was the clear winner of this tournament. And finally, the general education, management, and support courses. As soon as Present Mike mentioned the support course started to come, the rest of the class saw Izuku walk in front, leading the class like the leader of the pack. He led the class towards their designated spot, while Present Mike continued with the call for the other student course. Izuku turned his head towards the direction of Class A as they had their eyes on him with hatred and annoyance in their pupil. But Izuku didn't seem fazed and smiled in their response before looking away from their direction and returning to the stage. Soon Midnight was coming to the stage as she began to announce that the sports festival was starting now, and she began to call out the representative student to make a speech. All right, let's have the first-year representative who took the highest score in the entrance exam and is currently joining the hero course, Katsuki Bakugo. Midnight said to the audience, and we could see the dread expression that Class 1A is having. Oh no, Shoto said under his breath. This is going to turn ugly, Katsumi said as she looked away to avoid embarrassment. Katsuki walked lazily to the podium as he looked at the rest of the students with an expression that said, "You're beneath my level." He took a moment and grabbed the mic and said to the crowd, "I'm here to say that all of you extras are going to lose." Katsuki declared loudly as he showed his signature grin to the rest of the students. Needless to say that everyone began to boo him, saying that his cockiness will be his downfall. Many of the students think that Class A is starting to get cocky since they faced a real villain, and think that a sports festival is a walk in a park, which makes them look at Class A with a murderous look. Katsuki looked at the rest of the extras below him, yelling at him, as he looked at him as nothing but nameless extras whose only purpose was to be his stepping stone, but his eyes fixed on a certain green-haired kid on the support course student. Izuku smirks coldly while slowly clapping his hand before he makes a V sign with his right hand, pointing it to his own eyes before pointing to them, giving them his message. "I'm watching you." Flashback start. He actually said that. Tashinori looks to Katsuki, who's sitting in front of him while they are at a coffee shop. Katsuki calls Izumi's dad to discuss the article that was posted about his act in Aldera under a new alias. He said it. He said that he had evidence that could be used. I don't know how, but the Nord has it. Young Bakugo, I already confirmed this with the Aldera to erase any evidence that could be used against Izumi and all of you. Even I was there to oversee everything. They don't miss anything. You didn't see it. He wasn't bluffing at all. Young Bakugo, you don't need to worry about it. He's got nothing. Katsuki took his cup and sipped a good amount of his coffee, trying to calm his nerve down knowing that his future might get messed because of the likes of Deku. Katsuki then put the cup back into the table before continuing to speak. All right, but can't you at least help take down that article from the internet? It gives me the creeps whenever people are looking at me for some reason. Unfortunately, it's not that easy. Tashinori shakes his head. That article has raised the attention of other prefectures and even gained the attention of many heroes and celebrities, including politicians. I can't just ask them to take it down just because I said so. But you're All Might. You're the number one. Tashinori quickly shushed him, seeing as the ashen blonde kid forgot that he was in a public place. Keep your voice down. This is out of my hands. Besides, the article soon will die on its own. It's just a matter of time before everyone forgets it. Katsuki tries to calm himself down, but he fails to do so, knowing that his entire future is in jeopardy because of someone he views as weaker and amounts nothing to him. Now, the sports festival is the only place left that you could show him of his place. You need to make sure that he won't even pass the first event. Don't worry, I got that covered. Flashback end. Katsuki grits his teeth, wanting to shout back, but even he knows that if he did that, it would only look as if he was yelling at all of the students who are booing him right now. Ever since what happened on the rooftop, Katsuki can't seem to get himself to focus on anything, whether it's on training or studying, as he felt like there was a ticking clock hanging above his head, counting down before his demise, as to how Deku was interpreted it. He's growing more anxious by the day, looking at the eyes of everyone who stared at him, thinking if they suspected him to be this mysterious student K that's on the article, and growing paranoid for some reason. Not only that, but whenever he was walking, he tried to hear everyone talking at the same time, trying to find out if they were talking about him or not, worrying that the news had spread like some kind of bacteria, growing restless whenever he was out. Judging by how Deku is talking, he is somehow confident that he found evidence that can be used against the class, and mostly him. All Might assured them that nothing was to be worried, but he couldn't get rid of the paranoia that was lurking deep in the back of his head. That's why he makes the sports festival his arena ground, one where he can showcase his ability that he was in the best and to show Deku of his place. Midnight cracked her whip, striking a pose for the crowd and leaning into the microphone. Our first event will be a race. The race itself is composed of several legs and obstacles. I won't be telling you what, though. A girl needs to keep a few secrets for herself. She winks at the students. In this event, the first 42 participants to pass the finish line will move on to the next round. All participants, make your way to the starting line immediately. The risque teacher cracked her whip again, watching as the students began to slowly meander off as her eyes locked onto the green-haired student towards the rear of the group. On your mark, get set, go. Midnight shouts. They all began to run towards the exit, but the Todoroki twins began to freeze the entrance doors and jumped ahead of the rest of the students. It proved to be futile as most of the students began to float or jump or use their inventions to fly across the ice. Izuku used his repulsor blaster and leg booster to propel himself while blasting the ice, clearing a path for himself while flying toward the gate along with the rest of the students from the support course and hero course. He flies over to the arena as the race continues, and the first obstacle is the 0-pointers from the entrance exam. Most of the students looked in awe at the size of the robot that's standing in front of them. Without wasting time, Todoroki's twins immediately froze the legs of the robot as he ran past it. Katsuki, who just watched from behind, is beginning to explode his way when the robot Shoto froze, is being exploded by Katsuki as he just went past the other student and tried to catch up with the twins. Without realizing that the robot he exploded is starting to fall onto the student below. Look out, one of the students yelled. It's falling on us. The student yelled as she pointed at the robot that began to fall, when suddenly Izuku fired a missile from his gauntlet, creating a hardened foam component, like the one he used during the entrance exam to shield Kindo from the debris. Look at here, folks. One of the support corps students has just stopped debris from falling against the students who were under it. It's the ace of the first-year support course, Izuku Midoriya. Present Mike shouted over to the mic, watching over to his performance. The crowd cheers over to his chivalrous attempt to save the student as he continues to his race while moving at incredible speed. Right now, he was in 7th place, with the first being to Shoto, followed by Shoka, Katsuki, Izumi, Katsumi, and Ida in a particular order. He still has a long way to go, but he's not in a bad spot either as he sees the second obstacle, which is known as the fall, a canyon that must be trekked across by walking along tightropes that falls right in front of his eyes. Isn't that your student, Majima? Ectoplasm asked his colleague since he recognized the kid from the hallway a couple of times. Yes, Izuku Midoriya. Majima nodded, one of the aces of support course students. That was an impressive act. The kid clearly knows what he was doing. Cementos replied, looking at the footage. True, saving that many students in one single act. That level of act proves that he indeed came well prepared for this competition. 13 added. Behind their colleague, Tashinori grumbled in annoyance as they kept singing praises over his stepson's act just now. His daughter could have also done that. Not just them, but any one of her friends could have done the same thing. Tashinori's relationship with his daughter right now is a bit strained after she decided not wanting to take part to sabotage to Izuku's path to become a hero. In his eyes, his stepson had zero chance of entering the heroic world because of his quirkless status. The quirkless had no place in this world whatsoever. Only the strong could survive to become a hero. He heard of their plan to eliminate his stepson during the event and offered his assistance if possible. But right now, he just sat back and watched as they tried to show his place. He continued to fly over when his gazer detected an incoming behind him. He turned around and saw Mineta jumping ahead with his balls in his hand. "I got you, Deku!" Mineta shouts, ready to throw the balls towards him. But Izuku paid him no mind and instead replied by blasting him with his repulsor blaster, and his midget body got blasted away from his way. Whilst flying forward, he saw the second obstacle, the fall. The canyon is being surrounded by ice stalagmite, almost with the full intention to block anyone that was trying to get into the student's way. But judging by how it was constructed, it was obvious that this was meant for him. I knew that they were trying to stop me. But this is simply ridiculous. What's this? The entire second stage is looking more dangerous with Todoroki ice stalagmite here, folks. Looks like he didn't have any plan on sharing the stage with the rest of the students. Present Mike yelled out. Izuku pressed over to his visor to analyze the stalagmite's location and shape to help find the best path for him to fly over while avoiding the stalagmite. His visor starts to create a path for him to follow, and he begins to fly following the line on his camera. But whilst flying, he felt something stick at his back and saw Shiro along with Aoyama, who apparently try to work together, as the black-haired kid was stopping his movement, and Aoyama was using his laser to blast against his equipment. "Give it up, Deku. There's no way we're letting you pass." Shiro yelled out, managing to trap Izuku with his tape. "Get him, Dark Shadow," Tokoyami said as Dark Shadow came out and advanced towards Izuku's direction. "Oh, what's this? 3 of class's students are ganging up against Midoriya," Present Mike shouted. Izuku then tries to pry his hand from the tapes that stick to it and fires a missile over to Dark Shadow's direction and launches it. "It's no use. You can't destroy Dark Shadow with a missile." "Who says anything about a missile?" Izuku smirks. It turns out that the missile didn't actually explode at all and instead released a thick black smoke around the second obstacle, blocking Tokoyami and the rest of the students' line of sight, unable for them to see anything in front of them. "I can't see." Shiro covers his eyes, trying to find where is Midoriya running off to. But before he could follow the green-haired kid, something rampaged over to the second obstacle as Dark Shadow was rampaging around madly under the cover of the thick black smoke. "Control yourself, Dark Shadow," Tokoyami ordered. But the Raven student is unable to control his partner as Dark Shadow is demolishing everything in its path while attacking the student who tried to pass the second obstacle. Dark Shadow roared loudly in the arena as the audience saw how Tokoyami was unable to gain control over him. "Oh, what's this?" It seems that Tokoyami, from class's student, is going on a rampage. Midoriya. He's reversing Dark Shadow's strength to go against him. He must have learned that Dark Shadow quirk is easily controlled when there's light, but cover him in darkness, then all you had is an uncontrollable rampaging monster. Aizawa announced over to the booth. Izuku then launched himself forward after finishing with the second obstacle. He turned to his rear and saw Dark Shadow was still rampaging over to the arena, while Tokoyami was struggling to control him. By now, he was hoping that rampaging Dark Shadow could take care of the rest of class, who were still stuck behind. We could see that both of the Todoroki are leading the race, followed by Katsuki Bakugu and Izumi Yagi. But now they are facing the last part of the race, the minefield. Present Mike yelled. "Minefield?" All of the students yelled simultaneously. "Not to worry. The minefield itself is harmless and won't even kill you at all. But it's going to hurt a lot," Present Mike yelled. Izuku hovers around the last part of the race while keeping his eyes on. Whilst flying, he should be able to avoid the minefield from attacking him and avoid getting himself blasted. But he didn't suspect that Katsumi was still staying on the third stage while acting as a gate guard and ambushing him. "Die!" Katsumi throws an explosion towards his chest, but luckily, Izuka manages to evade at the last second and only hits his leg booster on both legs, dismantling it right in the race. Oh, what's this? Katsumi Bakugo from Class A is ambushing Izuka Midoriya from Class H. President Mike yelled out. The crowd murmurs around the stadium as they see it happen through the monitor screen, as one of the audience's early favorites is being ambushed right from the beginning of the race. Whilst it's a battle royal race, things like this bound to be suspected, but I never seen something like this before. Ow, that's gotta hurt. Ectoplasm closed his eyes while wincing in pain. Is the kid okay? Vlad King asked out of concern. That's gotta be against the rule? Is it? Power Loader looked at the screen. Unfortunately not. It's a battle royal race, so anything is fine. Plus Midoriya equipment is the only thing that's damaged. Niza looked at the monitor at his damaged leg booster. Niza knows that this type of competition is sometimes a bit brutal in its own way, and things as sabotage is one of the common things. He looked over to his staff and found one of his teachers smirking in satisfaction at the news. It was Tashinori. Izuka grunts with his face flat on the ground as Katsumi grins in a wolfish manner, wanting to deal with him once and for all, getting payback for what happened at the studio. But before she could do anything to him, the crowd on his rear began to race after passing the second obstacle. Katsumi saw how they were about to close in and realized that if she didn't go, then she could also lose the race. Get through you, thick-skulled Deku. You're worthless. Katsumi spats before continuing with the race. Meanwhile, Izuka lies on the ground, cursing himself, not anticipating that his leg booster might get damaged at this early stage of the game. He looked beyond his front as multiple students passed from him while forcing himself to get up. Izuku heard a cannon go off ahead of him, the finish line in sight, and then heard the familiar voice of President Mike as the speakers crackled to life. And we have the winner of the preliminary race. First to cross the finish line, Katsuki Bakugo, followed closely by Shoto Todoroki. He can't let it end like this. Not when he was here, and can't afford to stop at this stage. He then felt a hand touch over to his shoulder and saw Kindo at his back looking at him, who was on the ground along with Tetsu. Okay, Midoriya. I'm fine, but my leg booster got damaged. She hit my leg for crying out loud. Izuka hissed in pain as Tetsu was trying to help get him up. The voice of President Mike echoes overhead. 25 competitors have already crossed the finish line. Better hurry up, stragglers. Just leave me be. I'm fine. Izuku groaned while trying to get himself up. No way, bro. We're with you. Tetsu replied. We're friends, Midoriya. We're not going to leave you behind. Kindo added while lending him her shoulder as they were running. All three of them are running over to the race with both Kindo and Tetsu lending their shoulder to Izuku, almost like in a three-leg race as the rest of the audience in the arena watches over the three of them for their sportsmanship. And this act is being noticed by President Mike. What's this? Itsuka Kindo and Tetsu from Class B is Suppope wording Izuka Midoriya from Class H. What a courageous display of sportsmanship. In all of my years as a UA teacher and commentator of sports festivals, I have never seen such act before. Truly a honorable act. The crowd began to chant their name as they were slowly making their way towards the finish line. Even Kindo's classmate, who had already passed the line, also chanted over their name, supporting their effort and encouraging them. The whole stadium is shaking from chanting over their name. Mainly Izuku, as the staff also watch the same scene and admire their effort, with the exception of Tashinori, who grits his teeth at their empty chant in his ears. Every student who crosses the finish line before him fills Izuku with a sense of dread, just waiting for President Mike to call the race. But Izuku keeps walking forward, keeps running to the checkered line at the end of the track. If Kindo and Tetsu were willing to give up the race just to help him, then he refused to give up. That would only hurt their feeling. He hears more figures behind him, slowly catching up, but doesn't turn. Instead, he keeps his eyes on the finish line, on his goal, and only stops after his metal boot makes contact with the line. And in 38th place, we have the quirkless wonder of the support course, Izuku Midoriya followed by his fellow compatriot, the class president of 1B, Itsuka Kindo in 39th, and the Metal Kid, Tetsu, in 40th. The crowd cheered over his victory as Izuku made it past the gate with Kindo's classmate, along with Hatsum running over to him as they congratulated over on their victory. Izuku's eyes loomed over to the one side of the gathered crowd formed by Class A, with Katsuki leading the pack as they saw him still remain in the race. He immediately saw them whispering, all pointing in his direction and subtly muttering to each other, some with disdain clear on their faces. Though none of them compared to the barely restrained rage that one Katsuki Bakugo levied directly at his visage. He won't forget what just happened. Now he knows of it. They were collaborating to eliminate him from the race by any means necessary. And just like them, he won't pull any punches. He eyed the group, mainly at Katsuki's direction, before he made a V sign with his right hand, pointing it to his own eyes before pointing to them, giving them his message. I'm watching you. So, this was the end of part 2 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.